So today, we're going to dive into a story about how we change, really change, from the inside out. It's called The Mirror on Maple Street, and it gets right to the heart of where transformation actually begins.
But first, I want you to think about this. What if the biggest, most monumental shifts in your life don't start with some huge dramatic event? What if they start with something much, much smaller? Something as quiet as a whisper. Just let that sink in for a minute.
Okay, so our story, it's all about this guy Jordan, and he has this ritual that he does every single day in front of an old, foggy mirror. And believe me, this isn't just some weird habit. For Jordan, it's become his lifeline.
I want you to just picture this. It's 6 a.m. The sun is barely up, and there's Jordan, standing in front of this beat-up old mirror. You know the kind. Cracked frame, glass all foggy. To anyone else, it's probably just a piece of junk. But for him, this thing has become sacred. It's his whole world in that moment.
And this is what he says. He whispers it to his own reflection. I am a successful entrepreneur. I create value. I attract opportunity. And you have to imagine, when he first says this, his voice is tiny. It's shaky. There's no real belief there yet. It's just an echo of the person he's desperately hoping to become.
So, how did he get here? I mean, what pushes a person to start whispering promises to themselves in a mirror? Well, let's back up a bit and figure out what pushed him from a life of security into this place of, well, desperate silence.
You know, just 6 months ago, life was fine. It was steady, he had a good job, a regular paycheck, the kind of comfortable life that can sometimes, put your bigger dreams on the back burner. And then, the email. That dreaded "we regret to inform you" email. We've all seen some version of it, right? And just like that, his whole world crumbled. The savings started to drain, but way more importantly, his confidence, his sense of self. It was just shattered.
So there he is, at rock bottom, probably just scrolling endlessly through his phone, and he comes across this quote from the book Think and Grow Rich. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And for whatever reason, those words, they just cut through the noise. They stick. And in a sea of rejection, this one little sentence becomes a lifeline.
This quote leads him down a rabbit hole to this idea of autosuggestion. Now, at first, it sounds like some kind of, magic spell for the desperate. And honestly, Jordan was desperate enough to try anything. But what he was really tapping into is a powerful idea, the concept that you can actually start to rewire your own brain just by repeating something over and over. It was an act of survival.
So this isn't just some idea he reads about and then forgets. Nope, he takes it and he runs with it. He turns this abstract concept into a concrete daily practice. This is where the rubber really meets the road.
And check out how simple this is. There's no complicated system here. He just writes down his goals on these bright yellow sticky notes. He sticks them all around the mirror, surrounding his own reflection with these words. He speaks them out loud, and he does it every single day. See, the power isn't in how fancy the ritual is. It's all in the consistency.
And these are the words he chooses. Simple, direct, I'm confident, I'm successful. The story describes them as this messy, uneven patchwork of hope, plastered all over the glass. It's not pretty, it's not perfect, it's just a raw visual reminder of his fight to rebuild himself from the ground up.
Okay, but here's the thing, and this is maybe the most important part of the whole story. This was not a magic pill. Not even close. The real work, the real struggle, was the intense internal battle Jordan had to fight with himself day in and day out. Because while he's doing this every morning, the real world doesn't just pause, The bills kept piling up, the rejection emails kept flooding his inbox. And this is where it gets hard. This is where those hopeful whispers start to feel like you're just lying to yourself.
And this, right here, this captures the war that was raging in his head. On one side, you've got that cynical, nagging voice of doubt saying, "What are you doing? This is ridiculous." And on the other, you have the quiet, practiced voice of hope, just repeating the lines. The real work is right there, in that split second, choosing which voice gets to win.
And man, he had moments where he was ready to just throw in the towel, where that bitter, cynical voice almost won. What am I doing? It's not just a question. It's the feeling of being an absolute fool, of thinking maybe you finally lost your mind. But then, slowly, something starts to give. And this is the real secret. The first changes didn't happen on the outside. No job offer, no big check. The change happened inside him first.
The first signs were so small you could almost miss them. He started carrying himself differently, standing a little taller. When he talked to people, his words just had more weight. He started to actually believe his app idea might not be so crazy after all. And here's the key. He went from just saying the words to actually starting to feel them. That's the click. That's the moment the rewiring begins.
And then there's this one moment. It's so small, but it's everything. One of those yellow sticky notes falls off the mirror. And he could have just left it there, right? A perfect symbol for giving up. But he doesn't. He bends down, picks it up, smooths out the wrinkles, and deliberately presses it right back onto the glass. That's a choice. That's him choosing to keep fighting.
So when he says the line again, I attract opportunity, this time it's different. The story says he says it with a trembling sort of faith. It's not loud confidence. It's not absolute certainty. It's fragile, but it's real. And that's the turning point, where belief, even a tiny little seed of it, finally starts to grow.
So what's the big idea here? What do we learn from Jordan's story? I think it's this. Real foundational belief, it usually doesn't show up like a lightning bolt. It's forged in the quiet, in the consistent, sometimes desperate repetition of hope, especially when you don't feel it yet.
Which really just leaves us with one last question to chew on. For Jordan, hope found its voice in a foggy mirror on Maple Street. So what about you? Where does your hope find its voice?